Hey y'all, it's Shekinah with Spoken Like a True Goddess podcast, a space curated for goddesses worldwide where we embrace our true femininity, elevate our confidence, and step into the beautiful and abundant lives we were destined for. This month, we're diving into something truly special, the Goddess Guide to Love, a series dedicated to exploring love in all its forms. And what better way to begin than with the foundation of it all, which is self love? Self love is so extremely beautiful because not only does it set the foundation of how we show up in the world and are treated by others, but it also benefits those close to us because the love we pour into ourselves flows outwardly. The love that lives inside of us is manifested in everything that we do. It also works the opposite way. So when there's a lack of self love, it's usually manifested poorly. I read a quote before that said, you either feel good because you're full of love or you feel bad because you're depleted of love. And this really resonated with me because this is my belief as well. Love is the most beautiful and powerful force on earth. Love is the baseline for it all. All things are love. Love is source, love is God, love is creation. Everything is love. And I'm excited to break down what self-love really looks like and how to nurture it unapologetically and why it's the key to attracting every other form of love into your life. Now, self-love isn't just about bubble baths and spa days. Those are great ways to increase self-love or to activate self-love. But true self-love is about deep acceptance of yourself, compassion, and prioritizing yourself and your well-being. Without self-love, it's going to be hard to show up authentically in any relationship or anything that we set out to do. Because the acceptance you have for yourself sets the foundation for every other relationship in your life. Self-love is the practice of valuing, respecting, and nurturing yourself. It's about creating and recognizing your own worth, independent of external validation. And self-love, it's a journey. You don't just wake up one day and get a facial and you're, okay, I love myself. It's a journey. It's a practice. It takes discipline. It takes intention and it takes conscious effort. So when you are embarking on this journey of self-love, compassion for yourself and patience is very important. Self-love is crucial in all relationships. When you love yourself, you set the standard for how others treat you. Self-love helps you set healthy boundaries, avoid codependency, and attract relationships that truly align with your values. And when I say setting healthy boundaries, we want to make sure that we're setting boundaries and not barriers. Sometimes when we're not happy with how we're showing up in the world or not happy how we feel in interaction with other people, we go and we try to set these strict, hard boundaries. But a lot of times it's a barrier. You're creating a barrier around yourself to not get hurt or to not feel bad, but you're not truly teaching people how you would like to be treated by them. And when we set very strict and hard boundaries like that, it's a lack of self-trust. We don't trust ourselves to be able to communicate openly with others and come to an agreement of how we can coexist together. So we make very strict and hard boundaries, which is really making a barrier to keep people out. Especially if you're making a boundary or creating a boundary with someone who's been in your life and you all's relationship is already established, just waking up one day and deciding, hey, I don't like to feel like that, or I don't want to show up in this relationship like that. You have to understand that there's also another person involved that is also used to how the relationship is going. So you have to deal with that delicately so you can still keep the relationship. Just because you don't feel great in that relationship or you want to create new boundaries in that relationship, it doesn't mean that it's a bad relationship, but you have to go about it in a way where you can express yourself freely to them and you all could come to a common ground, if that makes sense. So we want to make sure when we're setting new boundaries, when we're standing up for ourselves or whatever the case is, that we're not being so strict that we're actually creating a barrier to just keep people out. We're creating boundaries so we could coexist in a healthy way, a way that is beneficial for us and those around us. And once you create these healthy boundaries and they're truly aligned with your values, then you'll attract relationships that align better. And you won't have to have those conversations with those people because they're naturally at the level that you are. You cannot fake energy. You cannot fake loving yourself. It shows. It's very obvious. It's very obvious if you're a person who really values yourself or if you're a person who is struggling with that. What you truly value will show and it will inspire others to treat you that way. So then you'll get to this point where you don't even have to explain to others how you want to be treated because it naturally shows and shines through. For example, let's say you went to someone's home and the home was so nicely kept, shoes off at the door, spotless and pretty like a museum, artwork, very well decorated, just a beautiful, pristine home. When you enter their home, you're going to follow suit. You're going to be inspired to treat their home the same way that they treat their home. You're going to take your shoes off. You're going to clean up after yourself. You're going to match the energy that's in that home naturally because that's how they're treating their home. You're a guest in that home, so you're going to go about it the same way. But let's say you go to a trap house and it's raggedy, the screen doors tore, windows busting out, just all types of hood ratness. You're either not going to enter that home, or if you do enter that home, you're going to treat it the same way that the people who live there treat the home. You're not going to respect the home. You're not going to take care of the home because the person who owns the home is not taking care of it in that way. So you have no incentive or benefit to do that. Like, okay, when in Rome, you're just going to go about it the way that they're going about it. That's basically what self-love is. If you're someone who values yourself, if you're pouring into yourself, if you have healthy boundaries, if you have healthy disciplines in your life and they shine outwardly, if you treat yourself kind, if you're the type of person who doesn't allow certain nonsense or whatever the case is, those who naturally come into your life, they're going to follow suit. They're going to do that as well. Okay, this doesn't even look like a person I could play with. So they're not going to play with you. And those who do, or those who try to come and try to do that, then you have enough dependency on yourself and you're so true to your values of self-love that you won't accept it. It'll feel so foreign to you that you won't even accept it. Like you can't even operate in a space where someone is not treating you or meeting you at the level that you treat yourself. So it's a trickle down effect. How you treat yourself, how you show up in the world is how other people are going to treat you. Without self-love, you're going to seek validation from others and outside sources, which can lead to unhealthy dynamics and relationships. And you're always empty and depleted and looking for things outside of yourself. And that shows. And people who do not have good intentions will take advantage of that and use you and your gifts for their own benefit. So you really want to spend that time with yourself and develop love, pure and true love, acceptance, and compassion for yourself so you can have all around better experiences. So what steps can you take to cultivate self-love? Practice self-acceptance. Embrace yourself, embrace your flaws, your mistakes, your imperfections. Just make it a unique part of who you are. Don't try to be perfect. Don't try to be like anybody else. Just be authentic. Just be yourself. And being authentic and being yourself, it's so magnetizing because that's a very courageous thing to do. We live in a world, everyone's pretending, everyone's putting on a mask, everyone's trying to be like everybody else. If you just show up and just are yourself, flaws and all, that inspires people, because it's not an easy thing to do. It's not easy to just show up in the world authentically as yourself. Instead of criticizing yourself, just have compassion for yourself. Everything's okay. You're doing great and life is fine. Prioritize your well-being. So make time for activities that nourish you and fill you up in all aspects. So body, mind, soul, is that prayer, is that meditation, exercise, creative hobbies. So just really spending time with yourself and pouring into yourself and doing those things that light you up are great ways to cultivate that self-love. And you want to make sure you're speaking kindly to yourself. Replace negative self-talk with affirmations. I also have daily affirmations to build unshakable confidence. And within that episode, there are a lot of affirmations that build self-love. Self-love and confidence goes hand in hand. When you love yourself, you become very confident. So I encourage you, if you need some examples of affirmations that you can repeat to really build you up and activate self-love, I encourage you to listen to the daily affirmations to build unshakable confidence. And set boundaries. Like I said, boundaries, not barriers. You don't want to create these rules to keep people out, but you're creating boundaries so you could just feel comfortable in the world and safe within your own space and skin. Learn to say no to things that drain you and say yes to things that fill you up and bring you joy. Do this in a healthy way. You don't want to be the person who's walking around life on defense. And that's sometimes when we're getting advice about boundaries, that's sometimes the type of advice that we're getting where, okay, yeah, you're making these boundaries and I'm doing air quotes, but you're actually just creating barriers. You're keeping people out because you're not safe to be able to show up in a world and coexist with others. You're not able to express your needs clearly. So you just create these boundaries, these very black and white ways, and it keeps people out, And then when we are setting boundaries, it's like, well, yeah, they didn't respect my boundaries. So, yeah, they just left because they don't respect my boundaries. It's like, no, it's also important to build and cultivate relationships. So when you are having these boundaries, you want to be respectful of others as well. And when I say that, people who are already in your life, who are already used to a certain dynamic that you all have, you want to ease them into this. You don't want to just cut them out their life because maybe they can adhere to your boundary. So you just want to do this in a healthy way, not saying no and being black and white about everything, but also not saying yes to everything. So you want to find a very healthy balance where you can show up in the world without being on defense and thinking everyone's coming for you or trying to take advantage of you or crossing a line with you, but really coming to the boundaries as a place of self-love, a place of, hey, this is how I treat myself. This is what I feel comfortable with. So how can we coexist with this? Not so much, okay, this is my boundary. It's yes or no. You cross my boundary. I'm cutting you off. You're out of my life. That's not healthy. And that comes from a place of fear. You not being safe in your own space. So you just don't want nobody around. You create this barrier like Shrek just to keep everybody out. Be mindful of that. Common barriers to self-love or things that may hinder us from unapologetically loving ourselves are guilt, comparison, and fear of judgment. As women, we are designed to be very giving of ourselves. Especially if we're mothers or firstborn daughters, we are put in positions where we have to be very giving of ourselves. And sometimes that could come with guilt. When it's time to pour into us or do something for ourselves, it could come with a lot of guilt. And many women feel selfish for prioritizing themselves. So reframe your thinking around self-love. It's necessary. It's necessary for being the best version of yourself, and it's necessary to be better for those around you. If you're depleted, if you're running on E, if your mind is all over the place and you're unorganized, you're not going to be good for anybody. You're not going to be good for yourself. You're going to be full of anxiety and stress, and you're not going to be good for those around you. So reframe your mindset of thinking putting yourself first or prioritizing yourself is selfish. It's not selfish, it's necessary. Also, comparison. You don't want to compare yourself and your worth to other people's standards. Create those standards for yourself. What makes you feel comfortable? What makes you feel good? What makes you feel good and what makes another person feel good could be totally different. So do what works for you. Remind yourself that everyone's different and everyone's journey is going to be unique. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Just do whatever fills you up. Fear of judgment. Remember that loving yourself unapologetically inspires others to do the same, whether they want to admit it or not. Showing up, being your true, authentic self, being slightly selfish and prioritizing yourself, setting healthy boundaries, not worried about how someone would feel for you doing what makes you happy. Those are all inspirational attributes. And whether people want to admit it or not, we love seeing people prioritize themselves and love on themselves and not be affected by other people's opinions of them. It's not something that's easy and it's admirable. And yeah, it may ruffle some feathers at first, but if you're a person who's unaffected by others' opinions or how someone's going to react to something that makes you happy, or if someone needs you to do something, but you're not comfortable doing that or can't doing that, and you set that strong boundary, it's respect first. Yeah, no one wants to hear no, or no one wants to not have their way. But if you do that in a loving way, in a way, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that now, but what about this? Or I'm not going to be able to do that now, period. Yeah, it may ruffle a little feathers at first, but everyone wishes to be that confident and that secure in ensuring themselves. So don't fear the judgment or opinions of others while putting yourself first and prioritizing your needs. So what are practical ways to practice self-love? One of my favorites are affirmations. I love affirmations. Affirmations have become such a huge part of my life that I just catch these affirmations running in my brain, or I'll just like quote them to someone. They're so deeply embedded in me that it's just my natural state of being. It's just naturally how I feel about myself. And it's so cute because this is even how I talk to my son. Like he'll say, oh, this is hard. I'm like, okay, you can do hard things. And then let's say later on down the line, I just hear him doing something and he's struggling or he's having a problem. And he's like, okay, I can do hard things. Or, okay, I'm smart. I'm a genius. Like he's always affirming himself because that's even how I talk to him. Affirmations have been a practice that I've started maybe a decade ago. It's just second nature to me now, where it's like, this is just my state of being. I actually feel this way about myself. And in the episode Daily Affirmations to Build Unshakable Confidence, there are over 100 affirmations that I have recited over the years. And these affirmations are for confidence, self-love, and just overall feeling great about yourself. And just a few from that episode that can really activate self-love in you would be, I am, was, and will always be good enough. I radiate confidence and self-love. I exude beauty, love, and confidence everywhere I go. I radiate high vibrational energy. And like I said, in that episode, there are over 100 affirmations, but I encourage you to listen to those on a daily basis and really get it embedded into your heart and into your spirit, and be mindful of what's playing in your mind. Be mindful of your self-talk and your subconscious and what's going on where you're not really thinking. Another great way to practice self-love is journaling, and specifically gratitude journaling. Write down 3 things that you love about yourself, 3 things that you're really proud of. And when you think of these things, I suggest don't make it physical. Make it things that can't be easily taken from you. Maybe you like that you're a kind person. Maybe you like how you treat people. Maybe you like how resilient you are. Whatever the case is, but try to make them things that really shows your character, or things that are really deeply embedded, like your spirit, your soul, your heart. Not so much superficial things, which is good. If your body tea and you want to put that down, do it. But you also want to ask some things that are not so superficial. But write down 3 things that you absolutely love and adore about yourself, or things that you're grateful for. And do this each day, always reminding yourself of the greatness and the beauty of yourself and what's in your life. Also, spending time in isolation or spending time by yourself, really get to know yourself on a deep and intimate level. And yeah, maybe take yourself out for a date, or maybe a nature walk, or whatever the case is, but really spend time in your own company and work on that relationship with yourself. Work on how you're talking to yourself, how you feel about yourself when you're not influenced by others or external things. Make that relationship with yourself so solid and unshakable, and really build upon that. So when you show up and you go into these rooms and you go into these different environments, you're already on stable ground. You're already feeling good, or know the tools to feel good, or you know what makes you not feel so good, or you know what you need to feel comfortable in situations. And that comes with just intimate time with yourself. And I know for some people, spending time alone is scary. You don't want to face your stuff. But being honest with yourself and asking yourself those deep questions and really trying to understand who you are and what ticks you off and what illuminates you, that is really important and a very important step for self-love. Also, mirror exercise. It's really great to do your affirmations while looking in the mirror. Looking yourself deep within your eyes and saying these beautiful words to yourself, filling yourself up, looking at yourself and speaking directly to yourself, saying kind words to yourself. You're doing great. I'm proud of you. You're so beautiful. You're so amazing. You're so worthy, and really make it fun and get into it. Get into character. Look yourself in the face. Look yourself deep in your eyes and affirm yourself. And keep saying this stuff until you believe it. In our series, Goddess Guide to Love, each week, I'm going to give you a weekly challenge. So for this week, I want you to spend 5 minutes doing a daily practice of self-love. So it could be some of the examples that I gave. That could be through affirmations, journaling. Do something that really fills you up or make you feel good. And yeah, that could be, maybe you could go get a massage. Maybe you could go get a pedicure, a facial, maybe going to get a smoothie. Whatever that is that fills you up and makes you feel good, a cup of coffee, I don't know, but do that. Spend some time, not a lot of time, 5 minutes of really being intentional on practicing self-love. And that wraps up the first week of the Goddess Guide to Love. Self-love isn't just a phase, it's the foundation for every other kind of love that will attract into our life. So remember, loving yourself is a daily practice. It's not a destination. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. So take your time, nurture your body, nurture your mind, nurture your soul, and never feel guilty for putting yourself first. If today's episode spoke to you, let me know. Leave a review, share this with another woman who needs to hear it, and connect with me at Spoken Like a True Goddess on all social media platforms. I love to hear how your self-love journey is unfolding. Next week, we're diving into romantic love. So we'll talk about how to harness your feminine energy to have more enjoyable experiences with the men that we love. So you don't want to miss that. Until then, keep shining bright, keep loving, and remember, you are already enough. Bye. That's all for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed. If you love Spoken Like a True Goddess podcast, leave a rating and a review on the podcast app that you're tuning in on. I would love to hear from you. Be sure to follow us on all socials at Spoken Like a True Goddess. Also, if you would like sisterly advice from me, email your questions to sltgadvice@gmail.com. It will be answered on the pod with love and discretion, of course. Well, I'm excited for our next Girl Talk. Talk soon. Bye.